Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a massive shift happening in education, specifically focusing on classroom walkthroughs. You know, those quick pop-in visits by school leaders? We're talking about transforming them from stressful, gotcha-style teacher evaluations into absolute game changers for understanding actual student learning. If you've ever felt like observations just kind of missed the mark, or if you're an instructional leader hungry for better data, you are absolutely in the right place.
Let's kick things off with a quote that completely flips a classic assumption on its head. Get this. Whoever is doing the work is also doing the learning. And in most classrooms, teachers are working much too hard. I mean, really think about that for a second. We know educators are phenomenal at planning and executing their lessons, right? But if we want real, rigorous cognitive engagement, well, the heavy lifting actually has to be done by the students themselves. Section 1. The shift from teaching to learning. So everything we're looking at today is grounded in this incredible book called 17,000 Classroom Visits Can't Be Wrong, Strategies that Engage Students, Promote Active Learning, and Boost Achievement. The authors, John Antonetti and James Garver, actually designed a specific walkthrough model, and they've pulled some seriously eye-opening takeaways from their time out in the field. And let's just pause on that number for a second. 17,000. That is massive. We're not talking about some abstract theory cooked up in a lab somewhere. This entire approach is built on more than 17,000 real-world, in-person classroom visits. They looked at the conditions, they analyzed student work, and they measured actual, real-time engagement across thousands of different setups. That sheer volume of data gives so much weight to the trends we're going to unpack. Section 2. What exactly is Look-to learning? Antonetti and Garver realized traditional walkthroughs had a pretty glaring flaw. They kept hearing teachers say things like, yeah, I know these aren't supposed to be evaluations, but it still totally feels like one. And the reason why? Well, it became super obvious pretty quickly. Observers were just looking in the wrong place. They were focusing almost entirely on teacher behaviors. And look, if you're just standing there watching the teacher, of course it's going to feel evaluative. But the moment you shift that focus entirely onto the students, the whole dynamic changes. Here's how it actually works. A trained Look-to learning observer pops into a classroom for just a tiny window. We're talking literally 2 to 4 minutes. In that hyper-focused time, they zero in on 3 main things. They listen to conversations, they look closely at the student work, and, most importantly, they actually talk to the students. It's quick, but it gives teachers real-time, actionable data they can use right then and there, instead of waiting weeks for some post-unit test score.
Section 3. The Teacher-Student Control Continuum.
Okay, imagine a graph here. The vertical axis, that's all about control. If an action is high up above the line, it means the adult, the teacher, is totally in control of it. If it's below the line, the students are taking the wheel. Now the horizontal axis measures how effective it is. So moving from left to right means you're going from weak, low-impact behaviors to highly effective learning. The ultimate goal for any classroom walkthrough is to spot behaviors pushing down and to the right on this continuum. Let's use learning objectives as an example to make this concrete. In a classic walkthrough, an observer might just check, okay, is the objective written on the board? Notice how just writing it up there sits firmly above the line. The teacher did it, they control it. And honestly, just posting it isn't super effective on its own, so it stays way over on the left. But in this new model, the observer checks if the student can actually explain the objective. That shifts to behavior completely below the line into student control, and it shoots way over to the right because it's a massive indicator of actual learning. The whole system trains observers to hunt for those powerful, below-the-line moments. Section 4. Finding evidence of student understanding. Now, the data they got from actually focusing on the students is honestly a little shocking. Check out this drop-off. In 93% of the classrooms they visited, the learning objective was right there, clearly posted on the board. But when observers walked over and actually talked to the kids, only 33% of them could articulate what they were supposed to be learning. Keep in mind, these are the exact same classrooms. That 33% is a subset of the 93%. It is the perfect proof that just because you put a target on the board, there's absolutely no guarantee the students have actually internalized it. So how do we actually fix that gap? Well, it all starts with intentionally shifting your focus to the other side of the desk. To get kids articulating the objective, you have to help them personalize it. Think about it. It's pretty hard to hit a target you can't even see, right? The really great news here is that out of all the behaviors they looked at in this protocol, getting students to articulate the objective is actually the easiest one to change. It just requires a slight tweak in how the material is presented, but the payoff in student learning happens incredibly fast.
Section 5. Providing reflective feedback.
Okay, so you've done the walkthrough. Now imagine a totally different kind of feedback session based on this data. It has some really specific rules. First, the feedback has to be framed as a reflective question, which completely removes the judgment factor. It has to be done in person so you don't lose tone or body language. It needs to happen within 24 hours while it's fresh and in a neutral spot, like definitely not the principal's office, to keep things emotionally safe. Here's a big one. You have to avoid the word you, so the teacher never feels singled out. And my favorite part? The teacher isn't allowed to answer the question right away. They literally have to go take time and genuinely reflect on the data first. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one incredibly powerful question to take away from those 17,000 visits. Whether you're examining your own teaching practice or walking through someone else's classroom, you have to ask, in this room right now, who is actually doing the work? It's a simple question, but honestly, it might just change the way you look at education forever. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.